Well, now to Nigeria. When Boko Haram militants stormed the government secondary school in Chibok and snatched over 200 girls a year ago, some of them later escaped. 21 of the girls are now studying at the American University of Nigeria in Yola, the capital of neighboring Adamawa State. Here to tell us more about the role the university is playing in helping these vulnerable girls is Margee Ensign, the president of the American University of Nigeria in Yola. Ms. Ensign, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me.
You know, we know that, a bunch of girls actually managed to escape.
Yes.
And they wanted to go to school, but there's no school to go to. It was burned down. Tell us how you got involved initially.
Well, the American University of Nigeria is one of the bigger employers in the region, and we have employees from Chibok who actually told us in May that some of their family members, their sisters, had escaped that night or the night after. And it wasn't a story that we were aware of. We were all focused on those who'd been kidnapped. So we asked several of our employees to go up and meet with the principal of that school and the Chibok leaders to see if any of those students really did want to go back to school, because many were saying they didn't, that they were afraid to return.
Now, you are a college. You offer university-level education. Now, what kind of assistance would you give the secondary school girls?
Well, we actually brought 11 of them, in August, and another 10 came afterwards. They're in a preparatory program for university education. As you may or may not remember, they were taking their national exams the night they were kidnapped. So they weren't allowed to directly enter the university, and we're really preparing them now for those national tests.
Now, Dr. Ensign, we know that there are many more people affected by the terrorism of Boko Haram in that region. And so you have done much more than that. Tell us about this other initiative which has helped hundreds of people.
3 years ago, the university formed the Adamawa Peace Initiative with all the religious and community leaders in our community. We've been training vulnerable youth, because when you look at the terrorist attacks around the world, including in your country, one of the places that it's happening is where there are many unemployed youth. And so we've worked really hard the last 3 years to make sure the youth in our community have education and the chance for employment. But when Boko Haram began pushing south, as you said, hundreds of thousands of people left Borno and Yobe states. They've come to Adamawa. They've come to Yola. Yola is a town of 400,000 and now has that many internally displaced people living with us. The university and the Peace Council are actually feeding 276,000 people every week.
Yes.
So the problems are pretty huge.
And you know, for the entire period that we've been covering this horrific story, we've always wanted to reach out to non-government organizations that are helping people down there. Who else have you seen in that region that is working to help civilians?
Well, we're the only major university now functioning in the area, and the biggest NGO. The international community is beginning to respond, but I will say they've been quite slow in coming in to deal with this major humanitarian disaster. But now many of the major ones, from the Red Cross to the International Rescue Committee, are starting to come into Yola.
I'm so sure that it's not always easy to do what you're doing. Just tell us a few of the challenges you've been facing working to help the people of the community.
Well, the challenges go to, first of all, to our own security. As you know from your country, you experienced a horrific tragedy with your students. So our primary responsibility was making sure that the university and the community stayed safe. And I think both our peace efforts and our hard security have done just that. But the great joy has been watching students like these Chibok young women. They're not girls, they're young women. They're from 16 to 19. To see them learn and to broaden their horizons has been the greatest joy that I've had in many years of education.
Yeah. Operating from where you're operating, how do you see this almost irony that here is a college which has America as part of its name in a region where some terror group is saying Western education is haram? How does that even play into the minds of people?
Well, my view is that this group, like some of the others, don't believe in any modern education, whether it's Western or not. And we stand for the best education that anyone can have anywhere in the world. And that, of course, is what every young person deserves. So we've been very steadfast and strong in staying open when Boko Haram was not too far from our area. We've stayed strong, and we will continue to educate not only our students, but thousands in our community.
Now, what more do you wish to see being done by the community around, but also the government?
Well, as I said, right now we're facing a major humanitarian challenge with all these people who need to be fed on a daily basis. They need health care, they need sanitation. Over 200,000 young children aren't in school. So what I would love to do if we had the resources is set up mobile education programs for these young people. I've just returned from a trip up north where the physical damage is horrible. It's pretty clear to me and to others who went with us that day that most of these IDPs are not going to be able to go home this growing season. They all want to go home and plant their crops before the rains start. But at least based on what we saw during that trip last week, it's going to be hard for these IDPs to return home. So the government and the international community has to find food and healthcare and education pretty quickly for all of these hundreds of thousands of displaced people.
For the little time left,
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what you perceive as the major challenges that particularly girls face in trying to acquire education in that part of Nigeria.
You know, there's a perception that parents don't want girls to go to school. I haven't met one mom or dad in my region who doesn't want their daughter to be in school. So often it's funding, it's having access to resources. And so our aim with the university and with the Adamawa Peace Initiative is to reach as many young people, girls and boys, as we can with our literacy programs. Yeah. We live in a region of the world where 77% of the population of our state is illiterate. So our community projects include massive literacy programs.
Mm-hmm. So it's not that some parents don't want their daughters to go to school, it's just the challenges they have to face.
I think it's access and resources.
Yeah, right. Well, Ms. Ensign, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Ms. Margee Ensign is the president of the American University of Nigeria in Yola, northern Nigeria.